Hi, everybody. Welcome to your weekly astrological weather. This is your place to get practical guidance for not only navigating but thriving with the cosmic tides. My name is Ann Ortelee, and I'm your favorite astrological weather woman. And I'm here with Amanda Poole Walsh, the founder of Astrology Hub. And because Uranus is stationing and the internet is crazy, we changed it up a little. So, welcome to our weekly weather and what's ahead in the week ahead.
Oh, and you
Glasses
did
off.
so good. You did so good. Oh
My
my gosh.
intro, my intro,
Yes,
right?
very amazing, amazing. So we've been having some technical
Technical
difficulties
difficulties,
this
yes.
morning, and so I said, Anne, I think you're going to have to do the intro because I keep freezing.
Hmm.
So, anyways, you did such an amazing job.
Well, thank you. I've always wanted to
Yes.
be an announcer. I used to stand when I was a kid in my bathroom mirror and I would sell things. I had a mole on my shoulder here, and I would drop my nightgown and I would say, okay, and I'd take toothpaste and I'd rub it on the mole. Now this mole is going to go away. And I would practice advertising in the mirror as a kid, you know. Yeah. So I've always had a
Perfect.
little fantasy of being an announcer, you know.
Oh
So
my gosh,
yeah.
very good. All right, well, maybe you'll just take it over. You
Ah,
just yeah,
yeah, you know.
yeah. All right, so Anne, what do we have this week? We have,
Oh,
our
changes,
intensity
changes,
scale, our
changes.
speed changes. Is that what you're
Changes,
saying?
changes. Yeah, changes,
Okay.
changes. Well, oh, we had the hammer. We've had the hammer of Thor, right? We had Venus go through it. We had Mars go through it last week. Mars is still figuring it out. We're going to have Mercury go through it today, tomorrow, and then we're going to have the Sun go through it when he gets to 10, which is in about 15 days or so. So we've noticed the hammer. We've noticed the changes. He comes in now. The Venus one was, I had kind of attributed it to the women coming out against Governor Cuomo, and of course we saw he resigned last week. But Mars, of course, is a malefic. Mars is a war planet. Pluto is a war planet. Eris is the goddess of discord. She's Mars's sister. The hammer swung, and we saw all the changes in Afghanistan. We also have Uranus stationing this week in Taurus. So we had an earthquake in Haiti. Uranus stations midweek. So we started the changes Friday. Remember, we were 5 days before and after. So 5 days after Wednesday, we're in a really big pivotal time of change. So the Uranus stopping, right? He's been going forward, happy camper, and now he's pausing. And he's like, I'm done going forward. I've gone as far as I can. You guys have to revise your structures for me to continue growing. I'm going to go backwards until January and then I'll start going forward again.
Mm,
So that means every single planet in the sky of the outer planets, which are the structure of our world, are going backwards. Pluto is going to go direct at the end of September, October, and then Saturn and then Neptune, but really everybody, all of them are backwards. So if you look at the chart right now, the personal planets are all over on the because retrogrades are they're opposite the planet, right? It's far away and I can't reach you and I don't know what you're doing, but you're going backwards, stand back. So the imagery a little bit is, the movie An Affair to Remember. Remember when they're on there and the car crash happens from the Empire State Building and they can see it but they can't stop it. So we're kind of in a little bit of a cosmic car crash
ooh,
and we can't stop it, but
mm,
the way we work with that energy is we relax into it. We relax into it as
mm,
best we can, knowing that as Uranus stops, he's in a sign he does not like. Uranus doesn't like blowing up the earth. He likes just big explosions and fireworks and stuff like that. But he's in earth. So when he blows up the earth, we have earthquakes. When he blows up stuff, he changes the structure. And we know the Saturn Uranus square that we're having this year says the structures in your life are changing. And so we just saw a 20-year structure. We've been in coming up on the 20th anniversary of the invasion to get the guys who did 9/11 and the Taliban and Osama bin Laden and da 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 da. And you kind of go, wow, that how long we've been there? Yeah, okay. Structural change.
mm.
New York, structural change. The guy went from, everybody in the world watching him because he gave news updates and he felt like he was the grown up in the room with coronavirus and then gone in a puff.
Wow.
And that's the level of change we're at now. Hopefully we've all been getting ready, because we've been working astrologically with the changes. But when you have people come to you this week, because you will go, what is going on? It feels like the whole world's falling apart. You go,
Mm.
it is, but it's not gone. It's just falling apart. And whenever things fall apart, it gives us an opportunity to rebuild. And so Uranus has been going forward, happy, happy. And then he went, I'm done. I'm going backwards now. And we saw him stop. We saw the earthquake in Haiti. We saw the changes in Afghanistan in a minute. That's Uranus. He changes things in a minute. He's a car accident. He's a slip and fall. When I slipped in the cat vomit and broke my foot in 7 places, it was a Uranus. It was Uranus right on my stuff. And I'm like, cat vomit kills me? And it was like a moment. It's that momentary change where there's a before and an after.
Mm.
And so we are in the week of extreme change. It got set up by the Venus and the Mars going through the hammer of Thor. Mercury goes through it this week. We find out things. We hear things. So one of the things with Afghanistan was, oh, it's not Saigon. It's not Saigon. There's going to be no helicopters. No helicopters. They're hanging onto plane wings and they're falling off the plane and dying. Right. So we are looking at this structural change, 60 countries coming together and saying, hey, leave the borders open, let the planes fly. We have to look at, we want to recognize when we're working on a global level, mundane astrology, it's also on a personal level. So you're going to look where Uranus is. It's on a world point. That's why these world points are so big. 15 degrees of the fixed is a world point. Uranus is stationing at 1447. He's right on it. Mercury is right on the world point. Venus just went over it. The world point for mutables for Virgos is 7.5. Mercury, Venus went over it. The report got released. Mars went over it. Cuomo resigned, and we had the war kick up. And the whole country went boom, 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 gone. And they said everybody just kind of disappeared. The army just kind of dissolved, took off their military weapons and kind of went home.
Whoa.
And so the shift, the change, and I was thinking earlier, in the old days, the Alamo, they would surround the Alamo and they'd fight and there would be like 3 left and, out of 300, and it's interesting. Our war, a shift like that just happened. And now what? And so we're all having that this week in our lives. Now what? And then we revise between now and the end of September. And then once the outer planets all start going forward, we go forward. That also means that the Delta variant is going to be crazy through the end of September. Right? We're seeing an uptick, whatever. And you remember back when Jupiter was going into Pisces, and I'm like, don't take off your mask, people. We're not done with this yet. I feel a little like Henny Penny, no, the sky is falling. But, we're going to have to work with that energy too through the end of September. And, I always love when you're listening to stuff and they say, yeah, 4 to 6 weeks. I'm like, yeah, the end of September. So, we recognize that we're at this huge transitional time. So 2 things. 1, be really, really nice to yourself. And 2, be really nice to everybody else because they're going through this too. And remind them it's temporary, even if it feels like everything is completely out of line.
And is it really temporary if what you said is that this is like a before and after moment? Like,
well, it's a before and after, but the intensity of
the intensity
oh my
is
God,
temporary.
oh my God, I can't live like this. It's like a birthing pain.
Yes, I was thinking of the
It's like,
same thing
yes.
when you were speaking because midwives say that when a baby is coming and the mom gets to the point where she thinks she's dying, they celebrate because they know that means the baby's coming any minute. So it sounds to me like one of those crescendo moments where we kind of feel like we're quote unquote dying because it's just so intense. But that means we're like at that turning point where something new is about to be born.
Yes.
So you say be nice to self and be nice to everyone else.
Well, because they're all going through the same transits you are.
Right. And what's so interesting is that I don't know about all of your worlds, but that seems to be the most challenging thing for people right now, because there's
very much in
blame.
short
Yeah,
supply.
there's blame all, people want someone to blame for it. People want someone like, oh, it's your fault. It's this fault. It's that fault. And so that's, I mean, that's a tall order. This be nice to self, be nice to everyone else.
I can talk trash about Virgos because I am one. Virgos look to blame. They look for fault when they're operating in lower form. When they're operating in higher form, they look for solutions and how we can make it work better and what can we do to make it better. And they
so that would be an antidote then.
That's the antidote. Working from a service point of view, what can you do to be kind and what can you do to be a Girl Scout or a Boy Scout and take care of your neighbor? What can you do to help a little old lady across the street? Be kind. Be kind. There was a doctor who was interviewed. He went to one of the lectures where everybody was screaming and yelling, and he and his wife both work in the medical profession, and he spoke and then he left. And he said to his wife, as we left, we're going to be taking care of those people because they're going to be coming into our hospital and we need to be kind. And that was what he said to her as we left. We aren't going to be mad at them. We're going to be kind towards them because the kindness offers a space for the connection. Virgo is super critical. We got Mercury, we got Mars, we got the sun in the end of the week. We have Venus just shifted out of Virgo into Libra. Libra is about grace and kindness. Libra is gracious. It's gracious. It changed last night. And so the Venus in Virgo, which is, you've got this stuff in your cup, and I love Virgos, and I have a lot of them in my life, but lower form, Venus in Virgo. Venus in Pisces is agape love. I love you because you're a human. I love you because we're all connected and we're part of the divine. Venus in Virgo is, well, there's none of that in there. And you go, right, there isn't. Now she's gone into Libra. So hopefully she'll be a little nicer, right? And partner. So we saw 60 countries come together and say, please let everybody that wants to leave get out. Please. And the Taliban saying, oh, we're going to be nice. Please be nice. Be kind. Be kind. Because that's higher form Virgo.
Well, and the other thing that you pointed out in the higher form Virgo is looking for solutions.
Yes.
So instead of it's your fault, you're the one, you're the reason, it's look for the solution to the actual problem.
Yes.
If the problem can be identified, right?
Yeah. And how can and of course Virgo is troops. So we're sending more troops in. Virgo is the civil servants, troops, as well as the soldiers. And you think about army, it's trained, it's disciplined, they clean everything, they shine their boots, and then they have this chaotic work, and then they rest and they clean and shine their boots. They often say, when you're in the military, a lot of it is cleaning and preparing because there isn't a battle all the time, right? So that Virgo part is, okay, what's the logistics? What's the planning that we're going to do here? Right?
So also looking for the solutions in your own life, like looking for the ways that you can feel like you're as prepared as you can be for whatever change. And doing that with a level of discipline, right? And with a level of like methodic, okay, I'll do this and then I'll do this and then I'll do this, and just sort of maybe even making a list. Like here's all the things.
Wonderful time to make a list.
Right? I'm going to make a list here, all the things that would give me peace of mind that I at least have done what I can do for the situation, and then just start chipping away.
Right.
Yeah.
It's the many hands make light work. How can we help? Like I can't go over and help, but I can donate money to women's organizations that help the Afghan women. I can do that. I can't go and fight. I can say prayers. I can, what can I do that's helpful?
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And also, use it as a teaching opportunity. Say, hey guys, this is what a hammer of Thor looks like with 3 malefics. and astrology works. And I said it's always a little worse right as it's coming in.
Right.
And it also has that kind of sudden, unexpected change. Where you kind of look at it and you go, wow. Because I was listening to the governor, because you'd said to me before we started, because I kind of had, I like Governor Cuomo, and I did. He was a Sun Saturn guy, came in, said, okay, this is what we're doing, took a leadership position. This is the plan. This is how we're doing it. I can't make you do it. I can talk you into it. I can give you information. You can make a good decision. my kind of leader, right? But now, out of office for he is a bully. I mean, he's got had a reputation of being a bully since he was 24, when he ran his father's campaign against Ed Koch, and he went after Ed for being gay. But back in, when 24 or 30 some odd, 40 years ago, whatever it is, he'd been in office, 36 years, I think, gay wasn't out. And Ed was a bachelor, I mean, everybody in New York knew he was, but upstate, maybe not so much, maybe a little more homophobic. And he ran, it was kind of like the Willie Horton ads that Bush ran against Dukakis, and Koch didn't win, right? And Cuomo did that. He was his bag man. So, so we look and we go, yeah, you were great, and you got us through it. And now, bye. You just said, hey, you ever think of having sex with an older guy? I mean, when I was growing up, because I'm 66, I had a loan shark expose his penis to me, and he had gray pubic hair. And I'm like, oh my God, I didn't know pubic hair went gray. And then I'm like, the guy's got his penis out looking at me. I had a boss that was a crook. I testified against her and sent her to jail. But before I did that, there was a loan shark with his penis exposed. And I went back to the office and I said, I am never bringing more money to this guy again. But I'm kind of going, you want to have sex with me? I'm like, I had a penis shown to me. Again.
None of it's good, though.
None of it's good. None of it's good.
Yeah.
But then we now have Afghanistan, where they can't even go to school. They're painting over the walls where the beauty parlor was. That was one of the saddest pictures. My friend Gina posted it. Them painting over the women at the beauty parlor, because back they go wrapped. It's such a juxtaposition of the Eris Pluto square, right? And it also shows us we have a long way to go.
We have a long way to go.
We have a long way to go. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So would you say the theme is changes, or what would you say the theme is for the week?
Oh yeah. Changes. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, like sudden, unexpected, finding out things, learning things, seeing things, and having stuff. So yesterday when the guys were on the news and they were saying no helicopters, nobody jumping on the helicopters, falling off the helicopters like Saigon, I said, and then today they were jumping on the airplane wings, falling off of those. I'm like, it's very quickly manifesting, part one. Part two, it also is sudden unexpected changes where you go, oh yeah, maybe I need to think about that, what my role is there. And with Uranus stationing with the hammer of Thor, we also have Mercury and Mars meeting up by declination and also by aspect, which starts a new cycle. And we are still, everybody's going backwards now. So we're revising our structures. We're looking at the structures and serious work ahead to revise them. We have a full moon this week at the last degrees of Leo and Aquarius on Regulus, the fixed star Regulus, the queen star. And then right after that full moon, the sun goes into Virgo and the moon goes into Pisces, because the full moon's at 29. So we suddenly get out of all this fire, because we've got the huge amounts of fire in the sky. And suddenly we get a little earth and water, which allows us to do things. Virgo is earth, and it allows us to feel things, which is emotion and water. But we just had Utah go up in fire, so there's a the ancients used to say, Grand Trine and fire, too much fire, and there's all fire and air up there. So now the vision, the idea, how we're going to do it, the speed with which fire and air move, everybody's going how fast they fell. I'm like, it's fire and air. These guys have a belief system. They want you out of their country. Go away, and you're gone. And as opposed to, the physical earth reality of how we're going to work with it. But so these changes are massive, and we've been talking about them. And this is actually what puts a little light under the butt of the fixed people, because we had a square moon this weekend, moon in Scorpio square the sun in Leo, which activated all the fixed folks. Remember I said they get dragged kicking and screaming into the change? Well, this just lit a fire under their butt. And of course, Joe Biden's a Scorpio.
So there is, but you would say that light that was lit isn't actually going to come to fruition till the end of the year. But there's this like, okay, something needs to change. I'm making the change. And that's
got to put the new structures in, got to put the new government in, got to put the new focus in, got to put all that structure in.
Yeah.
But we're still destroying through the end of September.
Right. Right.
When the planets start to go forward again, they're still tearing down structures. Yeah.
Okay. And something that you said in the grounding today, that we do a grounding before we go live, I think is relevant here, because you're talking about all this fire and all the air.
Fire and air.
One of the things you said is help us to use that fire to, light the way of our visions and our passions, but make sure that we don't scorch things with it. Make sure that we don't actually like harm with all that fire.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, because all the fire is a scorched earth on the lower form. I mean, think about what fire does. Its job is to burn. We saw the documents all burning, the fire coming out of the embassy, right? Great. That's good. We burn the secrets, but we also have all the fires out west, the Dixie fire, the new Utah fire, under no constraint, 2,000 people evacuated. So fire can scorch, fire can burn, fire can cause a real problem, right? And interestingly, today with Uranus in the sky, celebrity news, one of the Kardashians is dating a rapper who had a plane crash and was burned over 50% of his body. And he got into a plane, and his friend died. And he got into a plane and he flew today, right? After vowing he would never fly again. Right. So it's the opportunity to take that scorching, in his case physical, that we're now going to recreate something with.
Well, it reminds me. Yeah. It reminds me of the and I've said this on this podcast before. I think the Pele mythology. How when she was young and she has her fiery red hair and she has her fire torch and she goes around, she just lights everything on fire because she gets angry or she gets jealous or she gets upset, and she just lights everything on fire whenever she feels like it, with all that emotion just running unbridled. And then she goes through this whole experience with her sister. Her sister ends up killing her. But she comes back after 3 days. And when she comes back after 3 days, she's able to filter all of that intense passion and emotion through her heart, because she now has the gift of wisdom.
Right.
So it's, how can we harness all this fiery energy for good? Because it's not a bad thing. It's just that when we're wielding it with no control and no discipline and no ability to focus it, that's when we create damage instead of inspiration.
Right.
So that's I always think of her when we were talking about fire raging. Yeah,
fire rate. Yeah, because that energy of passion, but it also, fire keeps us warm. Remember, Prometheus got hung on a rock because he gave mankind fire. He said, "I'm not going to listen to the gods," because they were like, "No, don't give it to them." And he was like, "I'm gonna." And then he got punished for doing it, but it gave us warmth, it gave us heat, it gave us the ability to cook. So fire is good, but it's a cautionary element.
Yeah.
And it's a visionary element when we sit around and gaze at a campfire or gaze at a candle. You're at dinner with your beloved and you're gazing over a candle at them and you're like, "Oh, candlelight is so wonderful for what are the little lights in your eyes?" But it also is initiating. It's a fast moving energy. And it's not erratic. It moves until it burns up the fuel. Unlike air, which blows in, blows out, blows in, blows out. Fire goes until the fuel is gone or until it's put out. So if we can focus our vision on what it is, and that's kind of what the sky is asking us to do, is say, what's your vision? And of course, we are in the time of Leo. Leo rules the heart. We're supposed to be thinking about our heart's path as all these changes take place in our world. And so as we go forward, we go, what's my heart's path? What is the next path of passion? I was talking to a friend of mine the other day, and she said, "Okay, so this next chapter for you is your passion chapter." And I'm like, "My passion chapter? Okay, we just lost Amanda. Hopefully she'll come back." There you go.
Sometimes I do that when I drop my pen and I have to pick it up and come back.
Oh, okay. Earlier today, she just magically apparated in and out of the thing, kind of like Aunt Clara in Bewitched. So Jamie and I were like, "Oh, that's pretty good. How'd she do that one?" I'm like, "Amanda just went away, and now she apparated back." But yeah, so that fiery vision, the passion that we're working with, Where are the children when you need them? How come Sophia's not down there crawling around picking up the pen?
Exactly. She didn't hear it.
Where's a good Virgo girl when you need one, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
So so that's the idea today. It's like working with this and just knowing it's a very intense week.
Okay.
And I'm
So
not even going
intensity
to give
scale,
it
you're not going
I'm
to
not
do
even going to, it's just off the charts. But it might be you're just watching it. Like I'm not in Afghanistan trying to figure out what to do. I'm watching it. So there may be, because it's a full moon energy, it may have an element of participation also, where you're watching other people go through it. You're not actually doing it. But it is a big week of change.
it. And with this much change, and even
Mhm.
as we're witnessing, would you
Mhm.
say another invitation is to do our best not to react, even if we're
Yep.
hearing about other things? Again, it's this stepping into more of a response versus a reaction.
Well, the whole idea with Mercury, because Mercury is now going through the hammer of Thor too. And to your point, everybody likes to blame somebody. That's what Virgo does. Well, you should have da 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 da. And yeah, you could have. You could have, you should have, you didn't. Now what? So coulda, shoulda, woulda, action. Mercury and Mars are linking up. So they're saying, make your actions and your words be the same. I know you've been saying you're going to do this for months, but you still haven't done it. Well, I've been busy. No, no, we need to do it. We need to take action and get it done. Right. And it's actions. And I have a square between Mercury and Mars, so my mouth can get me in trouble. Mercury is the mouth, Mars is action. When they meet up, they're saying make your actions and your words match in service to something bigger than yourself, or in service to your purpose and path on earth. Don't go fighting. Go take that energy and go do something else with it. Figure out what you need to do to get it to work. I mean, you can stand there and scream and yell at other people, which might make you feel better for the moment, but it doesn't actually accomplish a whole lot. I mean, it might get you shot because most people have guns, but it's not like why. What are you trying to do? And
Right.
Mercury and Mars say, can you maybe come up with a little bit of a better plan?
Because that's the discernment part that we've been
Yes.
talking about week after week. It's being discerning with the way that you're using your energy.
Yes. Yes. I mean, that's the beauty of astrology. It says, here's the energy. I said, hammer of Thor coming, Eris Pluto. That's a sex thing. Sex trafficking, sex slaves. Well, we've got all these kids that can now be married off at age 12 in Afghanistan, right? But we also had the women coming forward and taking out Cuomo. We had Ghislaine caught. We had, so we see this this dyad of different ways the world works, and we have to kind of look and say, well, where am I in the world? What's my job? We're born, the Dalai Lama says we have a great samsara. We were born in this country. You and I can go outside and get a bagel, come home, and, we live in a wonderful country. And our problems, our karma of incarnating here as opposed to incarnating somewhere else, we have different karmas. So we're all here to work on our karma in our world, Saturn, work on our Saturn, and do our service to the world. And I remember being at this lecture with him over in the Beacon Theater on the West Side, and he said, you want world peace, start by talking to the person you don't talk to. Starts with you.
And how much do you see Neptune and Pisces playing in right now? Sometimes it's been really helpful for me to remember that Neptune is still in Pisces, creating this fog, creating illusion, creating confusion. And so it's still hard to see. It's still hard to see what's actually happening, even though we may have come to conclusions about what's happening. It's hard to see. And I think sometimes reminding ourselves of that is really important because we have that all the way through the end of October, right? The Neptune and Pisces.
He's in Pisces for a while. Yeah,
Right.
He's in Pisces for a few more years. But he is Neptune spends about 14 years in a sign. Last time he was in Pisces was in the Civil War. and cameras were invented. So that was the first war that was documented with imagery. It was a great exhibit at the Met. Of images from Matthew Brady. He sent out photographers to photograph the war and bring them back. And the soldiers all had little tintypes. My grandfather, my grandmother's up fought in the Civil War from Illinois, and he had a little tintype that was taken by Matthew Brady. Part of the pictures in my back room. So when Neptune had its reunion, its return rather, Kodak went out of business 165 years later. So Neptune in Pisces is the illusion and the delusion. It started with the opioid drugs because Neptune rules drugs. It definitely has a whole reorganizing of our spiritual path. It definitely has paranoia. So we have the QAnon folk. It definitely has, conspiracy theories and what's truth, what's not, what's the reality, what's not the reality. Definitely has an influence in music. And it definitely has a shift. And when Neptune went into Aries, we had the Civil War. So when people are going, we're going to have a revolution, we're going to have a war, I'm like, don't go saying that, people, because Neptune's going into Aries pretty soon. But when it's in Pisces, it's the grand illusion. What is the illusion? How do we see it? What does it actually look like? And so there's an element of unreality. When you look at the ocean and you stand on the ocean, there's little people on the ocean, and then there's this huge ocean that goes forever as far as you can see. And it's just this we're like these little specks, with this huge cosmic cloud of Neptune going through our charts.
And all of us are impacted by this.
We're all having every single person's having Neptune somewhere in their chart. You have to look what it is.
Yeah. I flew to the Big Island for one night this weekend. And so we're in like one of those really tiny little planes, like 10 people.
Yeah.
And it was amazing for me to see the islands, just see the land from a different perspective and see how small. I mean, there's so much more land and there's so much more water. And then all of us humans just placed our little houses like in these little clusters, and there's these tiny little cars. But it was amazing just to get that perspective, because when we're in it, it feels so busy and there's all these things happening, and and up there it's just quiet and it's peaceful, and doesn't look like that much happening. So I think sometimes just tapping into that perspective, that eagle eye perspective, can be so helpful. And I'm not saying you have to get on a plane to do that, but it was really helpful to get on a plane and be able to do that. But it's like, we think that everything is wrapped around what's happening in our world right now, and it feels so overwhelming. And there is another perspective that we can gain,
right,
that won't feel like that. And so even just asking what that perspective would be to help you find that place of peace for yourself, find that perspective that you need right now to be able to see what's actually happening in the world, in your life. Sometimes just stepping out of it for a sec can really help when you come back in.
Right. We take for granted the pictures of Earth because we've grown up with them, right? When they were on the space shuttles, taking pictures of little Earth with its little blue and green. And, we have that image in our mind, and that is our Earth. And on this are billions of people kind of going through all their daily routines, their rituals, their stuff in search of their souls, in search of their purpose, in search of their meaning. So I find that is how one of the ways I do it is I either go look at like some of the nebula, or, go on the NASA pictures and look at like what the cosmos looks like to understand. And then, or I look at the picture of Earth from outside of Earth and what Earth looks like, like that we're on this little place and we need to figure out how to work together, because we understand it's a little blue and green globe and there really isn't any other neighborhood we can go. It's like our home and we need to take good care of it.
And one of the themes that, with Rick on the Cosmic Connection, we do a monthly forecast. One of the themes he pointed out for August was relentless noise.
Yes.
Because we have the outer planets not making very many aspects, but then we have the inner planets just like buzzing around doing all kinds of things, making a lot of aspects. And so it's creating this like noise that it's been super helpful for me to think about as this month has been unfolding. It's like, okay, there's so much noise, and everywhere you turn, it's just barraging you, and it's saying completely different contradictory things often. And so the only place that we have to go where we're not exposed to that is inside. And that's the only place where we're going to find any sort of center, any sort of clarity, any sort of peace is going to be inside of ourselves.
Right.
And so that's what right now, the practices, the quiet, the like stepping away from it as much as possible. I mean, for me, even if I try to step away, I come back to my phone, which I use for work, or my computer, and there's like 15 more things that just pull me right back into the noise. So I think, prioritizing our practices, prioritizing just stepping away and getting that sense of quiet is really important right now. And remembering that it is noise, and it might not be totally clear. You might not get the answers you're looking for right now. You might just have to accept that it's noisy.
Right. I always think of Virgo as being like diners or cafeterias, and when I was in college, we had this huge, big dining hall called Hickey Hall. And it was, maybe a football length big. And, you got your food, and then there were all these tables. And there was all this noise until someone dropped a tray.
Yes.
And then the whole room would go silent and it would applaud because we were in college, as opposed to like when someone drops a tray in a restaurant, right? Now, but it's diner noise, that whole, like when you're in a busy, chaotic, noisy little place, or Grand Central Station, at rush hour. But
yes.
And then there's a really great flash video where they froze. They had a bunch of people freeze, and everybody's kind of like, what, you're not moving, and then they all started walking again. But that moment of silence, I think, is really important, and to recognize as much as you can, unhook from the crazy, if it's making you upset. I know last night I was in a little obsessive phase with what was going on in Afghanistan, and I thought, you need to go to bed, dear, and this is not going to let you sleep well. Let's go watch something that makes you happy. And isn't going to get you into into like a kind of brain. And so I think, remember, Pisces and Virgo are those opposites, right? So Virgo is the chaos and the noise, and sun shining. I want to be seen. I want to be recognized. Da 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 da. Look at me. And then Pisces is the solitude, the silent, the ashram, the silent meditation, the sleep. When you go to sleep, there's quiet. You turn the lights off, you make the room dark, you kind of quiet. So those two energies are very active. And of course, the Virgo planets are all opposing Neptune. So
right. I mean, we talked about the planets having a lower expression and a higher expression. And you pointed out Virgo, and the lower expression being this blame and critical and all this, and the higher expression looking for solutions and caring and being of service. And when we get ourselves in that tizzy where like you were talking about last night, you were watching the news, you were getting obsessive about it, you were getting really upset. The odds of us choosing the lower expression of any of the planets, of any of the archetypes, is very high. So if we want to be able to choose the higher expression of any of the archetypes that we talk about, we actually have to be in a different vibratory state.
Right.
And so that's where the work to actually maintain that vibratory state is so important. It's not some like, oh, you have your head in the sand. You don't understand what's happening. It's like, no, I do. And that's why I actually need to prioritize my frequency, my energy more than ever, because it's so easy to get sucked into those lower expressions right now, especially. So I think, again, it's important work for all of us to be doing. Is like, what energetic frequency am I going to choose? How do I align myself with that so that I'm part of the solutions here instead of spiraling into the whitewash with the rest of the world? Which I use the wave analogy a lot because, if you look at the big wave surfers, when they crash and they're getting sucked under the water and they could die. The people on the jet skis that are above the waves are the only ones that can actually save them in those situations. Right. Or maybe they're going to be able to come up for water. But it's like in these situations, the only way we can be on the jet ski, so to speak, is if we're not also tumbling in the white water with them. Then we have no chance to be of service. So yeah, I mean, it's big and it's challenging, and there's so many forces that are pulling us in the other direction right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've had a lot of sharks here on Long Island. And, so they fly the helicopter over and they go shark and everybody has to get out of the water. And now they have shark flags. Okay. It's got a fin of the shark. I mean, I'm like, I'm not going in the water where the shark's there, but the shark are eating the fish. The fish are in the water and they're sharks. So people are like, okay, into the water. Okay. Out of the water. The sharks are there. It's understanding there is, in this case, a helicopter flying over the sharks. In your case, the water skiers flying over the drowning people. But it's understanding that energy of, okay, how do we go in it? And we're going to see it with Haiti because the buildings collapsed and the people are in there. And we all were mesmerized when the building collapsed in Florida and they were digging them out, finding the bodies. It's understanding our job now is to really just be aware that this week has that opportunity. There may be an opportunity where you're called to step forward and help. And there may be an opportunity where all you can do is pray and hope. Because Neptune is also hope. And so it's kind of being beaten up a little bit right now. Yeah. So we have to allow for hope. We have to say, okay, they had 20 years of education. That's hopeful. The change in the children, the change in women, being chased around by a guy with his penis exposed as opposed to, you ever think of having sex with an old guy? I'm like, okay, different levels, with the Bill Cosby people, they were like, there wasn't such a thing as date rape. We didn't have that concept, but we look at how far we've come. So it's understanding that we have this evolution. The Tony Kushner quote from Angels in America, the world spins forward. It does spin forward. So as we're spinning forward into this chaos, it's kind of like, I've never ridden on a surfboard, but my dad used to teach us to body surf. We would be on Lake Ontario and he would hold us and kind of drop us on the top of the wave and we would ride it in. Once we got a little older, we had to get on the wave ourselves, but we would ride it in. And of course, when you got on the end and you tumbled in under the water and then you popped up like a little cork and went, oh boy, was that fun? Let's go ride another wave. It's a really interesting energy, and I want people to appreciate it, but also just recognize it can change in a dime. It can change really quickly, and that energy we want to be respectful of this week because Mercury and Mars are accelerants, and they want to accelerate stuff. And so we want to kind of pay attention to that accelerating energy also, because until those planets get out of the Grand Trine and fire, everything is getting very fiery.
Yeah, you brought up Grand Central. I had this image the other day of like literally with all the noise, with all the chaos, everything that you always see it in movies, I feel, where like the one person is still and everything else is just buzzing around. And how like right now it's so important to just do your best to be that person who's still with all the buzzing around. The other thing that we're talking about sharks, and I don't know if any of you have seen the movie She Is the Ocean, but it's amazing. There is a woman who has made it her life's work to actually swim with sharks on a daily basis. And so this shifting of perspective that can happen, like we look at sharks and go, oh no, they're going to kill us. They're going to eat us. She's been swimming with the sharks and she said they're the most intelligent, kind, gentle, misunderstood animals because she's with them every single day. And she brings people out to actually have the experience themselves. But that's that perspective shift that we can have when we're in a different frequency. We can see things different. It's like, oh, that thing that looks like a threat, that thing that looks like it'll kill me, that thing that looks like it's going to take me under can look completely different from a different vantage point. And the only way to get the vantage point is, again, I'm going to like keep beating this drum because I think it's so important as this noise is so intense that it's like the volume just has accelerated so much. The only way to find that frequency where that different perspective exists is within yourself.
Yeah.
And so all the things that you do, the music, the meditation, the walk in nature, the putting your bare feet on the ground, the listening to something inspiring, someone that you that can uplift your energy. All those things right now, key prioritization for each one of us. Yeah.
And it can be mundane things. Like I was cooking the other day and I made pickled jalapeno peppers. I'd never, I'm in a CSA. I'm like, oh, I got to do with all these peppers. And I was like, pickle them. I'm like, pickle them. All right. And I Googled jalapeno recipes and I pickled the peppers. And they were like, the recipe was like, we eat them right away and they don't even last a week. I'm like, really? Well, they're really good. I'd never pickled jalapenos before, but I chopped, and I seeded, and that chopping would carry water. There's a book.
Oh, yes. So good.
It's a great book. It's like understanding the rituals of your everyday. Tending to the rituals of your daily routines grounds you also with the Virgo, because the Virgo needs a grounding ritual to help it.
No. And that can be so simple. I mean, it does not have to be elaborate. You don't have to, I feel so many times we turn to meditation as being the answer, but there's a lot of people that don't do it, don't want to do it, have tried it. It doesn't work. There's so many other things. I think it's just paying attention to, okay, I just did something. Did that make me feel like I have more energy or less energy? Does that make me feel like there's more possibilities or less possibilities? Like what that I just did, what mindset did it put me in? How do I feel after that exposure to that, or that conversation with this person, and then just choosing more often the little things that make you feel better. And again, not from a selfish perspective. This for Virgos that are service oriented, it's like
it's nurturing.
This is service too. This is actually service, because then you can be of more service to other people. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And if people like doing it for you, let them. I have a friend who loves to give foot massages. And I'm always like, oh, and she's like, no, I really love doing it. And she gets out essential oils and she rubs my feet. I'm a Pisces moon. I mean, not that it's an erotic experience, but it's an erotic experience. You rub my feet and I'll follow you anywhere. But I'm always like, oh, when she does it, I'm like, oh my God. So I just bought this thing, the internet gets you on stuff. I bought these things that massage your feet. Like you put them on and they blow up air bubbles and they do all this stuff with your legs and feet. And it's like you're only supposed to do it once a day for 10 minutes. Amanda, I can't do it just once. I put it on and it blows up and it starts going like this with the air bubbles. I don't know. Shiatsu. I'm like, oh, and then the thing goes off. I go, anybody looking? I'm going to push the button again and do it a second time. So even buying a foot massager, where you're just suddenly able to go, oh, this feels so good.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. All right. So this week, our theme is sudden unexpected changes. We have Uranus stopping. So we're revising our structures for us to continue going forward. You called it a cosmic car crash. And we've talked about that analogy quite a bit, and how the reason why the drunk drivers actually get hurt less often than the sober drivers is because they're relaxed and their body is relaxed. So if this is a cosmic car crash kind of week, what you're saying is the challenge and the place where we will experience the least consequences from this car crash would be to relax into it as much as possible. We've talked about a lot of different ways to do that. Go ahead.
And also your birthing aspect.
Right.
When you give the cramp and then you do like the release in that minute between it, when the cramp goes down, right? The contraction goes down.
Yes.
Watch for the contraction to go down. It's not a continuous contraction.
And let yourself as much as possible rest when you're not experiencing those contractions. So if we're going to the birthing analogy, I mean, in between the contractions is when you need to relax and breathe as much as possible, because you're gearing up for the next one.
Right.
So when you have those opportunities to take a nap or do whatever to rest, to really do that. Yeah. Okay. So it's going to feel like the world is falling apart. And it might not feel that way for you, but it may feel that way for people around you as well.
You want to look at where the hammer is in your chart. You want to look at where the degree of 24 Aries 24 Aries Capricorn is. So if you have planets at that, it's getting the hammer. And then the handle of the hammer is 9 Virgo.
Okay.
So
All
if you
right.
have planets at those, that's where the hammer's landing.
9 Virgo, you
9
said?
Virgo. And then 24 of Aries, 24, 45 of Aries Capricorn, because that's the business end, the Pluto Eris square.
Okay.
Yeah. And we have the square. It's not perfected yet. It perfects in the next week or so.
So this aspect is just starting.
Still building. Yeah.
Okay, still building. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and you also brought that brought up the idea of breakdown, breakthrough. Like there's usually a breakdown before it precedes the breakthrough. So you can use that as a mantra: breakdown, breakthrough, breakdown, breakthrough. That's helped me a lot of times in my life.
Also break apart. Or break up, break into, like kind of Grace and Frankie just released a couple episodes and 4 episodes, and I love that show with Jane Fonda and Lily Tomlin. And so there was a scene where the son has to have a circumcision, and he has a little bit of a fight with one of the women she's coming out of a Starbucks, and it ends up she's the surgeon. And so he sees her and she walks in, and he's like, "No way, she's cutting me!" And he gets up and he runs through the draping cloth. It was very cute. So I encourage you to watch it. It's a circumcision episode of Grace and Frankie.
Grace and Frankie is hilarious.
I'm not going to let that woman cut my penis.
Oh my god. Oh man.
Yeah.
Okay, so and we have a few people that are feeling like we talk about penis quite a bit here. So now we just brought up another example. I'm sorry.
I do it to make you blush, Amanda. That's why.
It's my fault. So you can all blame me. It's because I'll work on not blushing.
If Amanda stops blushing, I'll stop saying it. Right. Bioparts. We also have Venus aspecting the nodes of fate and forming there's a grand trine in air this week. And so on the positive level, the grand trine in air gives us new people to work with, new ideas to work with, new connections to work with in terms of our direction. Okay. And that grand trine, and of course, Venus aspects the nodes of fate on the 20th. So you want to see who you meet, connect with, partner with, because there can be some new partnering opportunities coming in.
Okay.
And then we also have Mars and Mercury aspecting Uranus. Mercury aspects Uranus on the 20th, and Mars aspects Uranus on the 22nd. And that is when we have the plan. That's when we make the plan and we go, oh, that's the plan. Okay, I can work with that plan.
All right.
So those are the positive underneath. Okay, let's go forward. This is a new idea. I think it's really helpful. Let's go forward with this energy.
Okay. Yep. All right, so lots of highlights today. I've started going through some. We have this, what you talked about in the beginning, being nice to self, being nice to everyone else. What can you do to take care of your neighbor? Looking for solutions. We have a lot of sudden, unexpected change this week, and it's quickly manifesting. So things are like happening fast, and paying attention to what's your role. What role are you playing in the different unfolding stories that are happening. Make your words and your actions the same and make them aligned with the vision for your life. So make words, actions the same and aligned with the vision.
And remember, once they meet up, because Mercury and Mars meet up on the 18th, and then they meet Uranus, and they say, Mercury and I have Mars and I made this plan. This is how we're going to take action. You ready? And then they meet up with Uranus, and he's stopped. So when a planet is stopped, it's very powerful. So because he's stopped, he gives an extra potency to it, and they're coming in kind of loaded with energy with that trine. And Mars in Virgo is an opening trine to Uranus and Taurus. So it gives a action-oriented harvesting energy to wanting to take action around the changes we need to make. And then Mars comes along and trines Uranus and says, okay, this is what we're doing. First the idea, then the action. But the two of them meet up and come up with a plan. And that's the high, or they come up with a lot of criticism. And so what I always do, because, when I run groups, a lot of times people will come over and go, well, what you should do is this, or this. I'll go, that's a great idea. Why don't you do it? And they go, well, no, you should do it. You're the leader. I'm like, no, 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 it's your idea. Take it and run with it. I'm fully supportive of it. And then you find out if they're complaining or if they're actually trying to get something done. So
Oh,
when you complain this week, or someone complains to you, say, that's a great idea. You should do it. Or when
well,
you're complaining to
yeah,
yourself.
exactly. When you're complaining to yourself, when you're complaining about things, like what are you actually willing to do about the things?
Right.
Yes.
Right.
And I think this, one of the things you've been talking about since 2020 that I continue to like come back to is this inner authority, and not putting our hopes and dreams and expectations on other people, actually taking responsibility for our lives,
Right.
for the things that are important to us, for the things that we value, and like we said, putting the action and the words in alignment.
Yeah.
So yeah, the things that you don't like seeing, that you're complaining about, what are you willing to do about them? Because that shifts that from complaining to, again, solution.
Action.
Yeah, and action. Yeah. Okay. And you said this is an accelerating energy. You said allow for hope, like just don't let go of hope. I mean, some people have asked, like, what about people with depression, anxiety, sadness?
Very hard week. That's why I said it's transitory. That we got off track on that it's a transit, it's temporary. And then you went, but it's permanent change. I'm like, yeah, it is. But this is a hard week.
Yes.
Right. And so the goal is to remember it's a hard week. It will get easier on the other side. And I often say, I had somebody write me the other day that they wanted to kill themselves. And I said, no, 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 no. Because if you kill yourself, you go out with the chart that you killed yourself on, you come back in with that chart. You get a whole lifetime of it instead of just a week or two. So no killing yourself, people. Call a friend, call someone, go to bed, cry, whatever you need to do. No killing yourself. It's temporary. It's a change. It's a huge change, but it is a shifting of the energy. And, karmically, you do not want to kill yourself this week. And you want to reach out but it is a week where people are going to feel very isolated.
Okay.
There's an excellent book for people who are interested in that. And we're getting out of body parts, moving into another part of Scorpio. There's an excellent book by a woman named Linda Moon Zlotnick, Zlotnick, and she does a lot of work with death charts. When people lose someone, suddenly looking at their death chart and what it says about what the next incarnation's about, and what the purpose of their life is. It's summed up as they're exiting. It's kind of like, how does the book end? So when you exit, you have an exit chart, and that's as important as your incoming, because the two of them describe, what you finished up and what's left to do. But it's also a helpful chart for looking at to see. But on a week like this, not a great week to take off on, if you can avoid it.
Can you say the name of the book again?
I don't know. Moon, Linda Moon, Moon, Zlotnick, Zlotnick, and it's a book on death charts, like the astrology of the chart of death.
People ask about that a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, it's helpful, and it also, now with all these people dying with COVID, or dying from other reasons, it's a very optimistic. One of the things when I was studying astrology, Jupiter often is showing when you're dying. Ceres shows when you're dying, because Jupiter, you're dissolving your body, you're going on a long journey. Ceres, you're going back to Mother Earth, you're going back to the source. So departure charts are really interesting because they're marking the end of this incarnation, but they also describe the next one. It's how the Tibetans knew where the Dalai Lama was born, was they looked at his death chart of the previous one and they said, okay, over there, and it's where he's born is going to look like this. And they went over, brought one of his old teachers, brought some of his stuff. He recognized his stuff. He knew the name of the teacher. They were like, he's the Dalai Lama. He's our guy. The death charts anticipate the next incarnation.
And what we can see from that is that you're essentially carrying the same pattern, a similar pattern from your this lifetime into the next one. So
You
there's
can.
really no escaping this. There's no escape.
Got to
It's
do the
funny.
work.
I
Got to
was
do
talking to my
Got to do
daughter.
your Saturn.
Yeah, I was talking to my daughter about moving. Maybe we'll need to move at some point, or what if we, where could we go? Blah blah. And she goes, "Mama, like you can't escape this. Like you can't. There's nowhere you can go." But I was like,
Is that the
"Oh,
Virgo
God."
daughter?
No, that was the Libra daughter.
The
And I
Libra
was like,
daughter. Okay.
which Saturn and Virgo though.
Saturn Virgo.
And
Okay.
I was like, "Oh wow, you're right." Like they're really like, and I think all of us feel this on some level. Like, where can I go to like get away from the crazy that's happening? And it's just a reminder. And if you're feeling like that about this lifetime, it's the same reminder. It's like there really is nowhere to go. Like we have to go through it. We have to go through it. And that's what we're doing right now. And I think most women who've birthed a baby, like you're in labor going, why the hell did I do this? It's like, well, there's no going back now.
No,
We're
it's
gonna have
too
to
late
go
now.
through it. Yeah.
Go through it, right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah,
So then,
my old astrology teacher would say you can run, but you can't hide. It's your chart, so you have to figure out how to use it and do it.
yeah.
So,
Yeah. Okay. So important partnership opportunities. So be on the lookout for that. And by the 22nd, we'll have a plan. We'll have some idea of where we're going, how we're going forward.
Okay.
And
we're still going backwards for a while until we go forward. So
yeah,
we'll have a plan, but all the planets are still going backwards. So they're like, great with your plan, honey. Wait till the end of September, and then we're going to go forward. So
right.
Yeah.
Okay. And thank you so much.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
It's these intense times where this is even more. I mean, it's always valuable, but when we're in these really intense moments, I feel the astrology and especially the humor you bring to the astrology and all the analogies and stories.
Got to make it happy,
Yeah. It just helps us get, again, that eagle eye perspective. Like we all get to fly in a plane for a little bit and look at the world from here and go, okay, it feels really bad when you're in it, but maybe it's not so bad. And can I tap into that perspective here and there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And really the keyword for the week is kindness to yourself, to others. Everybody's feeling these transits somewhere in their chart. So depending on if they're activating, and sometimes you'll be like, well, you said it, but when you look at the world, it wasn't tied into your chart, but you saw it. It still counts. But if it's tied into your world, it's like, okay, what can I do? And in that capacity, that Virgo, that's stepping forward, whenever you see like a GoFundMe or you see people, showing up with a potluck or people, it's people have this enormous humanity and want to help. They want to care. There's a caring button in everybody. And part of it's Neptune, but another part of it is your Virgo placements where they say, let me help you. I can do this for you. How can I help? And and sometimes it's just going in and doing the dishes. Now don't put them away, but do them. Put them in the drainer. Don't hide their pots.
Spoken like a true Virgo. I'd be like, put them away. Sure, I'll find them later. No big deal.
No, don't hide my pots. But you can clean them. You can clean them, but don't hide them. So and so we want to honor that there is a service that we can all be called to because we do have 3 planets in Virgo, and we're about to have the sun go there. And we also have the moon, Venus now in Libra. So she's like, well, let's make it pretty and let's pick some flowers from the garden and gussy it up. Make it look good.
Perfect. Okay. Thank you, everybody, for being here, for being a part of our community, for tuning into this episode. If you don't receive the Cosmic Insider yet, which is the free newsletter that we send out every week, summarizing all the shows here at Astrology Hub, and just giving some highlights. If you like my notes and the summaries and stuff, I put that in that email, or a different version every week. So if you want to get that Cosmic Insider, again, it's free. You can go to astrologyhub.com/insider and we'll be in your inbox, just giving you the updates as they happen once a week. And I am just so grateful that you're all here. Thank you for making astrology a part of your life. So grateful for you.
There's other Scorpio things we can talk about. We can move off the body parts.
Well, there's some people saying we love the body parts. Of course, this is another polarized issue. Everything is polarized.
Talk about the body parts. I mean,
some people say, no, please do.
I can do analogies too, Amanda, because I know I can make you blush when I do analogies also.
You too, yeah.
But it is one of my favorite things to do. I just want you all to know the reason I do it is I know it makes Amanda blush, and I like to make her blush. I
think you make other people blush too, and we don't get to see them. I think a lot of the audience are blushing too. Like, I love Erica on my team goes, I'm clutching my pearls.
Clutch the pearls,
so
am I?
cute. Yeah, she's so cute when she says it.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. Have a beautiful, wonderful week. Make sure you take care of yourself and be kind to yourself and others. All right. Thanks, everybody.
Do that. Bye, guys.